I picked my kids up from Forest School and I'm waiting for our Uber. I'm sitting in like the lobby foyer area of the library to get a little air condition. Okay. And we're just sitting there, we're waiting. And this older gentleman comes in the library. He comes in the door so he can directly see us. And he starts looking at me like, and it's just kind of this awkward moment where you're like, look, he's okay. This person is looking at me. I'm not crazy. You are looking at me. And I'm like, do I know him? Like, what? Like, do I have something on my face? My kids didn't tell me. Typical kids. Okay, what is happening? And then he walks up to me and he asks me, where are you from? And I'm like, dang, do I stick out that much where just like random stranger that comes into this space is like, you don't belong here. Where are you from? But I was really surprised that of his, like why he was doing it. His response, my whole mindset around that was completely wrong, and I'm happy that it was. Let's talk about it. So first off, welcome. Hey, I'm Imani. I am many things, as we all are, and one of them is a marriage coach. I do talk a lot about relationships here, but I also talk a lot about life. I'm figuring out life and this transition that we're in. Like many of us are figuring things out, and so we talk in real time about figuring ourselves out, about figuring out how to navigate through change and transition, and we do that in real time. So let's get into it. He comes to me and asks me where I'm from. My initial thought process is like, dang, I just look like I don't belong here. I look like a foreigner. And I wasn't necessarily feeling that in the 4 months that we've been here in Panama. So, for those you don't know, a little context, especially if you're new here and you've been following me, my family and I, my husband and our two kids, my 10-year-old daughter, my now 4-year-old son, as of Cinco de Mayo, um, we moved here about 4 months ago to Panama City, Panama, from the States, and we did so sight unseen, which people were like, "That's crazy." I've gotten the side eye. I get it. We did research, but no, we hadn't visited first. And so there's a sense when you go to a new space that you do stick out. Do you do stick out as someone that doesn't belong here, that is new here, that that is not of us, that is not one of us kind of feeling? And so that came flooding into my brain as this stranger is looking at me. And I told him where I was from. I said, Atlanta, Georgia. He said, oh, in Estados Unidos. And we're having this conversation in Spanish. And shout out to me for, continuing to work on my Spanish. And shout out to him for his patience. And he was like, oh, because oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, because you look like you're from here. He said, you look like somebody from Colon. And I was like, gracias. I was like, gracias. I felt so complimented. I was like, thank you. He was like, yeah, yeah, because da 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 da, and started to say that I had that vibe and why it was that he was thinking that. And I think there was, in all fairness, there was some sense of like he wasn't sure, and that's why he led with not hello, hi, how are you, but like just he led with where are you from, and was genuinely curious. And he's like, you look like you're from here, and I just took that as a really big compliment. I carried that with me. I'm still carrying that with me. I thought it was great to share because in the reality is that a lot of us can feel a sense of not belonging or sticking out or not fitting in when we are in new spaces. Yes, my family's experience, my experience is being in a completely new country and having to navigate and figure that out. But sometimes it's a new job. Sometimes it is a new neighborhood. Sometimes you're moving within your own country, but to a different state or to a different city, and navigating the change and differences there because now you're the odd one out, now you're the newbie, now you're the new one, now you're the one that wasn't here before, but hey, I'm here now, and what does that actually look like in your real life? So I'm navigating all these things and my family is navigating all these things in a new country and figuring that out. And when we were doing research, because I will say, look, we did some research, okay, for those who were like, what? You didn't visit first? No, we did not. But I did research. I looked at a lot of videos from folks that moved out of the country to Panama and to different places, I definitely focus a lot on families and a lot on Black families. And then I also focus on other Black folk who have moved. Because yeah, I did want to understand our experience in different places, and that's a lot of times it's just different. Um, for us. We're the same people that needed a green book to navigate our own country safely. So that perspective is important to me. And so I'm doing the research, I'm talking to different families, and especially with young children that came with them. And I'm also talking to them offline. Like I'm having conversations via DM, I'm having Zoom calls. So I'm getting that real life boots on the ground insight from other people who move their families to abroad and to Panama. One of the reasons I chose Panama, okay, was because a lot of folks had talked about the Afro-Panamanian experience here, that, there are going to be people of all hued, in the spectrum of hue, and also that look like you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that was going to be the case when I first started looking into it. And when I came, I did find that to be true. And there was something comforting about the fact that until I open my mouth, right, I have a sense of conversational Spanish. Everybody who talked to me as I'm practicing my Spanish says that it's good. The accent is good and things like that. Grew up in New York, Bronx girl, so heard a lot of Spanish. I have an ear for the accent in general, right? The accents differ depending on the country, but I have an ear for the accent. I do pretty well conversationally, but I'm not at all to a level of fluency, right? And so until I open my mouth, somebody doesn't just look at me and know that I'm a foreigner. And that's why the experience with that gentleman was kind of affronting, because it was challenging what I had felt for the last few months, at least in my head, right? He had just the fact that he came up to me without really saying, too much. I think he might have said buenas, that's the other greeting. And then it was like, where are you from? Kind of made a beeline for me instead of kind of going about just his business, buenas, and then going about his business. There was a reason he came up to me. It was a little affronting because I was like, I had felt like you can't just look at me and tell that I'm not Panamanian. You don't know, kind of thing. And for him to say like, yeah, no, you do look like you're from here, you do look like, you're Panamanian, and was more surprised to know that I wasn't, was a pleasant surprise for me. It was comforting to know that I could see, yes, folks that look like me. I didn't stand out visually as a foreigner. I think that there are many experiences when you're traveling abroad, when you're moving abroad, when you're even in a different city or a different space. I have been in spaces in the States growing up and as an adult where I am one of few that look like me, or the only one that looks like me. And there can be something weighted about that. Sometimes there can be something that feels very isolating about that experience. And I thought that that might be experience just moving abroad. I had tried to mentally prepare myself for that. Like, okay, girl, you might be the only, brown one in this space. You might be the only black person in this space. You might be the only, and just be like, it's cool. This is a test of how comfortable you are in your skin for real, for real. Because now you don't have the comfort and the safety and the familiarity of the spaces that you've curated for yourself in the States, the communities that you're around that feel like home, because they are in a lot of ways. They are something that you carry with you that feels like the comfort of home. And I'm like, okay, I mentally prepared for that. And then to see that, okay, I could fit in here is one thing. I know there's so many creators that have moved abroad that I listen to that have moved maybe to other spaces. Sometimes you feel more of the othering, right? If you're in a space, for example, a lot of folks that have moved to maybe East Asia or Thailand or Vietnam or something like that talk about how amazing and wonderful and peaceful it is, and talk about the fact that They needed to find community with other folks who had moved, which I also get because I've done the same. I've talked to you about that on this channel before, in creating community here and finding friendships and that helping it feel like home. But when they're just walking the streets in some of these other countries, they don't see anybody that really looks like them. They can go days, weeks, months without necessarily doing that if they're not intentional. And it's clear that you're not from here, right? It's clear before you open your mouth. It's clear just from you walking around in your own skin. And that can feel liberating for some folk and at some time. And then sometimes it can feel very isolating or it can feel very lonely. And on top of that, having the language barrier, how are you able to communicate with people and really find friendship and connection? Because that's really what we're craving. Like if you're at a new job, you're looking for that coworker you can go to lunch with, and kiki with, and just feel like, oh, I'm excited that I get to go to work. And yes, do this work if you enjoy your work. And also, I'm gonna get to see so and so, and we're gonna get to kiki, and it's gonna be cool. We're gonna grab our breakfast bagel in the morning. I'm flashing back from when I used to work in corporate in the financial district in New York, and we get our bagel, downstairs in the lobby area where they have a little food. You spend a little bit more time kikiing before you like go up because you check in at your desk first. Well, my desk / cubicle. Then you go to breakfast. I'm gonna grab some breakfast, and you're just having your leisurely morning with your friend. And then you do the same thing at lunch, and maybe you kiki at the end of the day when you're getting ready to go. And that makes it feel comfortable when you have that person, when you have that connection. Same thing in a new city. People move to new cities and they're looking for like, how can I make friends? Like just go on a coffee, run with somebody, have some tea. Let's do something. All of these things that we grapple onto to feel like we belong in this space. Ultimately, I will say for me, I can't speak for my husband. We've had conversations about this and we have differing experiences in our skin, which makes sense. And we support each other in that. For me, I feel a sense of belonging here. And it's not just because I have found friendships that I have met genuinely cool people. And yes, a lot of these people have moved from the States and lived here, from the States or Canada, and have lived here for a varying number of years. Some have been like 12 years, some it's been 3 or 4, some it's been, 1 to 2.